Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for leading me in there, Raymond. Jeffrey, I'm glad you're here. I thought when I posted that we were going to, I'm thinking about doing a trip and taking you all with me, those of you who could. I wasn't entirely sure of the number. And I figure, you know how it always is when you plan a party and everybody wants to go, and then the day of, no one shows. So anyway, I figured the best way to actually plan this out is to just have everybody show up here and we talk a little bit about what everybody would like to see. Because of course we'll get a bus of whatever appropriate size, meet somewhere central in Europe, and drive back and forth. And I also wanted to get some idea of if we're going to be 20, 30 people, we're probably not going to sneak through some of the, well, you know, no trespassers will be shot, landmines, crawl through small dark tunnels and die type of places for a number of reasons. But there are a couple of cool places that we could go to. And I had a well, Jeffrey, you're gonna get stuck with me regardless. We have to go do something this year, no matter what. I will be planning on flying in late April. I'll pick up my rental car in Prague, and then circle around Europe, um, either one way or the other way. I'm have some historians I'm meeting up with and urban explorers in Poland. So there's going to be some stuff. I don't know if I'm going to go that way, Poland, or the other way, because Norway will be a place. I have a meeting in Austria, which nothing will come of, but I'll have a meeting anyway. And then through Switzerland, and then I wanted to get some alpine forts, and then down to Strasbourg. There's a couple of places still in France, and then up through Norway. So I have a couple of places, and there's a couple of places in Germany that I want to go film before. So I'm thinking it would be late May, where theoretically a trip could look like um, we could all meet in Berlin. Would be that's one of the things I wanted to get a handle on. How many people live in Europe and it's just going to drive to wherever we are, for one, and how many will be flying in from wherever, which case I would like to see. I want to find an airport and a place that's, it's cheap to fly into Prague, but it is pretty much in the opposite direction of where it's not central. I figure it'll be a 2 week trip, um, in crappy hotels and crappy food and long days, but we get up early and see something every time, whenever the sun is up, or rain, as it may be in Europe. And if we were to meet in a place central like Berlin, we could. I wanted some of the forts around Metz because they're awesome. Some of the forts around Liège, like Épinal and Fort Aubin, and go down and see Roger around Verdun. I see some of the forts there. Circle back, possibly through Jonastal. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of things to see in Jonastal, um, which is a real thing. If you're going to spend your vacation and your money to come see forts and bunkers and castles, I think going to places where there really is something to see is preferred, and that's again what I wanted to hear your suggestions on. But that's one of the things I was thinking in the West, and then go through. And since we're landing Berlin anyway, we could go to Sussen and get a special tour in the bunkers, the underground, the Maybach complex, and then go east and meet up with Dr. Jones, do a couple of days through the East Wall, and then drive up to the Project Lisa sites and do stay at the castle and spend a couple of days there. I have to budget it all out and gasoline and so on and so forth. Wolf's Lair would be fun, but that's a full day drive one way and a full day drive the other way. And so that is sort of my plan for a trip. We would meet in Berlin. We would visit Maybach. We would drive out to France and see the forts around Liège, the forts around Metz, the forts around Verdun, come back, and East Wall and Project Lisa sites. I think that that's something that is manageable on 2 weeks. Um, Food in Poland is always cheaper. Hotel rooms as well. That's just the thing. Although we are going the mid tourist season, so um, I'm budgeting out an average of $50 a night hotel room accommodation. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. That's not uh, the best place to stay in the world, but it doesn't matter. One of you guys had an option to rent a minibus, and I was kind of hoping to hear from him because, of course, it'll be 2 weeks in a bus. And we would, of course, also stop and see whatever there is on the way that we would go through. I wanted to build in enough time that we can cover all the fun places, but also have time for a little diversion and go. And honestly, that's sometimes when I go explore places, uh, is I will, as I'm, you drive from one end of Europe to the other. As I'm sitting in a gas station eating ice cream, I will go on my app and just punch in bunkers near me, forts near me. Sometimes something really interesting comes up that I had no idea where it was. So, there's got to be room for that. And if we're 10, 20 dudes in a bus, with searching on cell phones, I'm sure everybody will come up with that. Oh, we're going to go right by this thing. We should stop and see that. Uh, and also, I mean, it's just fun because it's going to be all of us talking history. And but that was my initial plan for the trip for this year. Um, so, what do you think? Is that the way to go, or should we spend more time? Should we not go to the Project Lisa sites and spend more time in France? I would say go to Normandy, but there's nothing in Normandy. We could go down and see the Blockhaus, the Le Coupole. Um, we could do those sites, but then we wouldn't get to Poland. Well, we would get to the East Wall because that's not far from Berlin, and of course there's some forts on the way to the East Wall that are interesting as well. Um, yeah, no, no Hollow Earth and no Antarctica this year. I don't know. Is the Project Lisa sites? I mean, they really are interesting, but I guess we can. It's a little bit like the shows. You have the last Nazi secret locations, or you have the amazing forts locations. Having everything in one, maybe a bit of a thing. But I think, I mean, the Project Lisa tunnels are interesting, and the castle is interesting, and we can get some tours around there, and that's fun to see, and so I think it's worth it. Plus, we can travel the line of the East Wall a good distance, so there won't be a whole lot of U-boat pens. You know what? Um, we could go to the Valentine bunker again. I'm kind of just basing this on how I can navigate myself, speeding a little car from site to site to site. If we go to Valentine Bunker, we could theoretically also make it through to the Star Village up there, because that's not that far. So I mean, but again, every time we tag something on the outlaying, like if we go to Metz, there's a couple of days of really cool forts just surrounding the city. Not to mention the city itself. It's a great place to vacation. And the same thing with Verdun. 2, 3 forts in a day. We actually get to see with the Roger. We'll still be driving a bit. Liège, you have Épinal, you have Fort Aubin, you have all these amazing places, and we can stay in one hotel, and there's not a whole lot of driving time there. And I think that's also important because we want to go. We don't want to wife and children. When the hell did you get wife and children? We'll talk about that later. So, and again, Project Lisa sites, stay in one hotel and see a whole bunch of different locations. So that is sort of my motivation of planning this, so we don't have to change hotel every day. Um, and we can go from one place to spider web it and see all the places surrounding that one site, and minimize on the long distance travel. And the east wall, the same. Although there's only a crappy hotel and a really bad hotel and then the worst hotel, but they are cheap, and there's a grocery store with a cute blonde works there. So I don't even think about food because that can't be done. There's no food anywhere near the east wall, so we'll bring a barbecue. Oh, that Tom. Sorry, I have two Toms. Tom, I thought for a minute, Tom Destoya, I thought you had wife and children there for a minute. Sorry, other Tom. Your wife and children is forgiven. Or bring them. Actually, that'd be interesting. And I chatted with Dr. Jones this morning, and one question in setting something up is, what kind of shape are you all in? So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to put up a thing where you can send in your if you're interested, and a little bit about what shape you're in, because no matter where we go, there's going to be 30-meter staircases up and down. Oh, of course, I also talked to Fort Cassel. You have to go to Fort Cassel. You have to see this place and some of the larger, and then we could go to Simsenhof as well. And but again, there's 30 meters up and down staircases, up and down and up and down. So you can shape. You don't have to be in shape for it, but there's going to be 10-15 kilometer walking every day, and some of this is going to be a bit of staircases. Like you saw Fort Aubin, there's staircases up and down. So just a reminder, and which is totally fine if you are all 75, 10 eggs and bacon away from a stroke, which is unfortunate. But if you are, I need to know, because then we need to just slow the pace down a little bit, reminding you that there is no elevator where we're going. That's just the fact of it. But like the Protulisa sites, there's no staircases in any of that. Well, there's a little one down the side of the castle. Verdun, not really. Metz, not really. There's a lot of trekking through nature. You get to the Maginot Line forts, there's some walking up and down. So anyway, that's and then of course everything that's in between. And I'll have some maybe I could be able to tag something on onto the trip while I'm out there, since I'm traveling before. So anyway, well, you don't have to be in good shape as long as you can walk uninterrupted without keeling over. And you will all be made to sign so many liability waivers. I want letters from your families that if you keel over, it's okay to leave you there. Just want to make that absolutely clear. And yeah, I think we should probably at some of these places bring you to a damn barbecue and just eat out of the bus. Depending what bus we're getting. If we're 10 people, we'll get something smaller, and if we're 20, that's another thing. If we get to be numbers of 20, 30 people, we'll be in a bigger bus. No idea what that's going to do for diesel and stuff. That is whatever it is. But also, how close can we get to these sites in a BA bus, which may also add a little bit of to the walking part. It's just really there's one thing is what I'm used to getting to in a little car, and I may have to keep the car so we have a chase vehicle to run errands and run stuff and get an advance for us, which is, I came out of a world of personal protection. I always have the advance car that shows up half an hour before everybody else, and a little running security for everyone. Old habits die hard, but it makes planning fairly well. So anyway, that is the trip I am planning, and now you sort of have an idea what I'm doing, and if you have any thoughts, East Wall, or I mean, we could go to the completely opposite way around, and we can just stay in Poland and Czechoslovakia. Ex-military bus, you know what? We're going to be spending a lot of time driving, so I think we should go with something fairly comfortable. We're going to be walking enough. We don't need and if it's one that actually have a bathroom, might get charter a bus. It might not be the worst thing in the world. We could also do an entire 2 week in east tour and see all the bunkers there, all of Hitler's headquarters, all those out there, and then go by the trains and eat a hot dog at Auschwitz. I'm not kidding. They have a hot dog stand. And the Riese site, we could do that. Or we could go to the west and bugger off all the way out to Normandy, although there really is not much to see in Normandy. It really isn't. And do all the V sites, Kupol, and so on, and then do all the forts and all the one battlefields. We could also do that. So, I mean, there's different options of how to lay out a tour. It depends all on what you would like to do. I would love to meet you in Malta. I'm absolutely coming to Malta at some point in time. Totally, but it's that's going to void out a whole lot. That's going to be me. I want to come out there first and film it. Hey, Larry. You made it back. That's all that matters. So anyway, those are the plans for the trip, and I'm going to. If any of you have any interesting suggestions on alpine forts, I'm going to be circling down them. It's much of a problem to get a list of locations that you will be doing. No, Templar. You're no, absolutely not. That's why I wanted to put up in the clusters, Haloden, of the clusters around the cities. I will. That's why I just wanted to have this chat to hear if the rough idea is to meet in the middle and go a little bit to the west and a little bit to the east, if that's the way to go, I have some idea what we should see. So that'll be easy. If I go as the basis, if 20 of you write me and say, no, we all want to go to Poland, well, then we'll do a dedicated 20 people going to Poland. Or if 20 of you guys, well, no, we want to go to the west and stay there, then we can do that. I just think I thought it would be interesting to see a little bit of everything. There's also a couple of West Wall forts we can possibly do. Again, not far around Liège, so see a little bit of what what the Germans built both in the east and the west. Again, I'm trying to line it up so it's logistically sound without us having to go 200 clicks out of one just to see one thing. I'd rather go that where we can see 10 in one location, in one rough location. And Kamla had plenty of tunnels I haven't seen yet. Most of them are bricked up severely and takes a little bit of negotiating to get into. But yeah, there's a lot of UV locations he still oversaw that I'm not done with. So not to worry, we're not done with Kamla. And the interesting thing about Kamla now that Shaki was asking is that Himmler gave him a map around Jonastal with different locations marked off, and he made some markings on that map. That actually survived through his driver back to his family, and I've seen it and noted them off. So went to some of them. There's very little to see, but there is stuff underground. Why else would there be markings? All these different locations around. So that's going to be a GPR trip. Problem with a lot of the Kamla locations is either they are severely bricked up. We could also go to Austria and sneak under some wires and do some stuff, but I'm not going to do anything dedicated in Austria until I sat down with the BIG and had a little conversation with them about what it is they're actually, how they would want to open up. I am going to Norway. I am going up to the fort that is, of course, always in the opposite end of the country. But yes, I am thinking either, Tom, I'll come straight from Prague and go see you, and we'll go meet with BIG and do some stuff in Austria, or I'll go the other way around and I'll start going through Poland and then jump on the ferry to Norway, and then Norway, Sweden, and then come down through Denmark and go west, and then come the other way around. But that is for me. I'm for my trip. I actually don't know if I'm going to go one way or the other way. But yeah, there's some cool. There's a lot of really cool World War II stuff in Norway, and I'm meeting up with on this trip. I actually think, with a little luck, World War II history hunter and we can actually finally get to do something. And I don't know, maybe we should bring him a Nixon mask, since I'm filming everything and he's incognito. So we shall see. Uh, Tom, is there any interesting castles or abandoned places, factories, not necessarily World War II related, something large and imposing up in Austria that would be interesting as well? Just I'm meeting up with an urban explorer in Poland. We're going to go look at a couple of sites, just abandoned castles, and I figure if one of them is renovatable, we'll keep it. Just a thought. I think we should. I think Lost Battlefield should have its own castle. I really do. I'm just saying. Well, Norway has overpriced everything, so it doesn't matter what I do in Norway. I can't afford it anyway. Can't afford the beer or the food, and the only damn place I've ever seen where a cucumber was like $17. But you have no national debt. I get it, but damn, food in Norway was expensive. In fact, last couple of forts I saw in Norway, all I ever ate in that entire time was hot dogs in a gas station. Uh, that was a good hot dog. I slept in my car in Norway too. Uh, yeah, I don't see why that's not going to be happening again. So I'm trying to. Where's my Norwegian friend here? I'm trying to sort of lay out a roadmap up in Norway of the larger, interesting German installations. Um, so either I would shoot up the middle. I have to go to Oslo because there's a castle in Oslo, and I have a very old friend in Oslo. I actually want to go see. Um, Plus, there's the forts that was firing at the German fleet coming up. That fjord would be very interesting, and which is why. And well, I fly into Prague always. Love Prague. Wish Prague Underground. Damn. Yes. Prague Underground. I did a deal with. We didn't make it last time. Logistics. I have to. I have to go to Prague's Underground. That you know what? That thanks for reminding me on that. I'm always scouting locations for the next movie. Actually, the next movie is going to be in July, August, probably August when I get back, and it will be pretty much shot entirely out in the desert out here. It's not a war movie. I'm very sorry. Um, yeah, that would be that fjord. I mean, I want the fjord up to Oslo. First of all, it's an awesome trip, and if and I remember that trip on the ferry, there's actually good buffet. Getting way overpriced, but well, you know, there's a nice old castle in Oslo too. I love Oslo. Um, Insanely pretty girls too. Just saying, I have nothing to do with it. But I want to also go have a little chat and look at the airport out there, because we all hear the story about how Germany had left a whole lot of enormous planes sitting in the airport in Oslo at the end of the war that were thought to be for sorry, just reading, thought to be used for the American bombers. And I haven't actually I haven't found any photos of any large German plane assembly in the airport in Oslo, and none of my friends up there are historians in that sense, so they actually don't know. So I figure I'll go talk to a local historian who knows Air Force history up there to see exactly what the Germans abandoned there, just to actually verify that story. And also in Sweden, coming down to the coast, opposing Denmark, there's some really cool older forts and coastal installations, lots of guns and cannons that I want to see, which would be interesting. And History Hunter found a seaplane there. I think he found a submarine too. Anyway, that was a different thing. Yeah, no, yeah, I know, and that's why I always wanted to spend more time in Norway. maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my next wife is not in Metz, but in Norway. Anyway, but yeah, and I figure I'll go. Well, we're gonna go up and see the Gneisenhaus cannons. We got to go up to that fort. I don't know if we're gonna make it all the way up to the other end to the Adolf cannon. I don't think I'm gonna make that. It's just it's 2 3 days for one installation, and it's. I always try to balance it out with what can I actually get to, and what is price efficient. So I figure sailing into Oslo from Poland. I think I can still that. Pretty sure I can still do that. Then driving down Norway or over and down, and then jumping over to Denmark. And there's a couple of more forts and also Cold War forts. And well, Tom, maybe we should do those in Austria as well. I mean, it's castle. Although I mean, I know that in Austria they lock everything up and fence it in, but uh, Todd, yes, there's quite a few interesting battlefields. Although the problem is there's not a lot on them. I want to do Silo Heights and I want to do Festus Sandorf's sister fort, which is out there as well. Uh, if they could actually be bothered to respond to any of the 8,000 emails. And every time I went there and it says we're open, they're closed. So they're just driving me nuts. Um, Oh, that guy. Well, we were staying. That's near the castle. So if we're going to Poland, STB, we'll see him again. And we'll see him again. And if he's not there, we're definitely crawling into there. Ooh, the Templar Castle. Oh yes, yeah. I am do. I am. I'm working on another episode of Himmler's of Enenab of Evelsburg and what he was looking for. So that would actually be interesting. Um, there's also that speaking of Berlin battlefields, there's also that old Cold War listening station, covered in graffiti, but it might be interesting. Uh, Larry, can't Texas come? I mean, I got to come to Texas, but and then take a look at some of the old forts you have out there. But you can come, Larry. You can do it. Um, really, I just saw the knife maker said that they're making knives with the Tirpitz steel. That would be cool. I actually would like to have a knife made from the steel from the Tirpitz. Just saying. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Will do. And yeah, golden money. I am. Oh, by the way, I finally wrote up the text. And again, this is again to tell you. I wrote up the text of the first. You know how I'm doing the World War II personalities, and finally got to Hammond Goering, and I'm doing them from they were born until the early 30s, when there's an interesting break in their careers or lives, and then so that's why they're all going to be 2 3 episodes each. And I did Himmler and I did Goebbels, and I finally wrote up Hammond Goering. And all right, Larry, I'll bring it to you on video, dude. Hell, I'll bring it to you to Texas. We're gonna go to Texas this year as well. And going over Hammond Goering's life until 1932, 33, I really there's obviously there's not a whole lot of photos of him as a kid or his parents or anything. There's not a whole lot of anything, which there never is, which is just frustrating. But his story, and if it's very hard to not, and his love of his first wife. If ever there was a world romance, and if it hadn't been for it being him, that would be it. It's just an amazing story. It really is an amazing story, and I cannot wait to bring you Hermann Goering's early life. I mean, the early life of Himmler is interesting, and Goebbels is interesting, but Goering, if you ever want to understand what he became, you'll understand when I get this. I'm reading it in either tonight or tomorrow, and then I'm gonna have to find the imagery to actually make it flow, which is always the hardest part I have is finding. I bring to you guys a lot of times locations of which there are no images of. Well, here was a factory of which no one took photos, or they're hidden in an iCar somewhere, or there are. You talk 10 minutes about the childhood of somebody, you have one picture of his childhood. That kind of makes that's where all the time in editing goes, is to try to find the images that are correct or appropriate. um I mean, it just wait. If you ever made up your mind, if you ever thought you made up your mind on Hammond during the man, just wait until you hear this episode of his life and his lost love, because I'm seriously, it's really hard for me to not sort of forgive him for everything he did after 1932, knowing what had come before. Although it's not entirely clear what he actually did yet. The Nuremberg files are not entirely. Yeah, he married a Swedish lady, and I mean, the love between those two is just that. It's amazing. It really, reading it and writing it really chokes you up. So you don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about that. But I'm deeply beneath all the coolest world famous author historian outlook here. I'm still a hopeless romantic, and that story is just heartbreaking. Mm. And it's yeah. Um, and so I don't want to. I'm gonna also team up, see if there's some urban explorers out there in Europe, Karen, yeah, that I find videos. I actually like urban explorers, and it's not always military, but sometimes you guys find stuff that is just, how is that still sitting there? Oh, here's a house full of old flintlock rifles. Um, so anyway, um, uh, that's why I want to team up with any urban explorers you guys know. Just pass them on. We'll just do some collaborations, which might be fun. Yes, Goering's brother did try to save quite a few Jews, as did his ex girlfriend before, Karen, who was an actress. Throughout the war, kept sending him names of people to watch out for. And no. His morphine addiction started when he was shot in the groin during the putsch in 1923. That's when he was shot down in his plane as a pilot several times, and he was wounded in one of them. So I mean, he had a bunch of injuries. I mean, he and mountain climbing, and he was a real dude who did real stuff and got really hurt. But it was the morphine came in after, and honestly, if I get shot in the groin, I'm pretty damn sure I want every drug in the world as well. But that's where the morphine addiction started. Yeah, that would do it. But she saved his life. I mean, just trust me on this one. This is going to be really good, and it will be out before. Yeah, and he was a really really smart guy, and he knew, even when he was in rehab, he knew that he had a problem and he had to fix it. And it also explains, with everything he went through, that also explains why Hitler stood by him throughout. So anyway, exploring with Josh Gates. Oh, Josh Gates drives me crazy. When the Hitler anyway. There's a Hitler memorial in the U.S. Um, tell me more, out of just complete utter curiosity. And something else now that we're here. I did some new T-shirt designs for the Lost Battlefield shop. Not that it's about merchandising, but I figured, well, you got to do something that's a little bit American. So I'm doing some Stoop Life T-shirts. Did some more nicer graphics. I'm doing an American flag, the hill to die on. Larry, you may appreciate it's not entirely certain, but I'm pretty sure that I might do a Lost Battlefield Alamo T-shirt as well. Just something that's not, the guys thought all fun and games with me, but it's more fun to do it about history, about cool stuff. And I found some cool graphics of tanks and bunkers and things. So yeah, and Machine was doing some super custom stuff. But the other stuff, like check out the shop, because there's actually some cool stuff we put together. I actually honestly starting to wear my own stuff, which, well, I guess I really should. If only we can get a thermal coffee mug. A shirt with an old tire. Roy, we. See, the problem is we get new people coming to the channel all the time, and I don't know if that is that too internal. I mean, those of us old timers, we know that, in every World War II bunker there's an old tire, and is it an internal joke? Is it a little too? Is it a little too? Are we being too internal here? But it doesn't cost us anything to set up the graphics for the T-shirt. So you know what? Yep, we'll do a bunker with an old tire graphics, if I can figure it out, and also, of course, just to paddle myself down, having the family hate me even more, I'm sure there'll be a Truth is Down There Kamler T-shirt. Merchandising General Kamler. I'm sure it's somewhere in whatever afterlife I will be paying for that. I just think it's funny. Or I can do we can do a General Kamla T-shirt brought to you by the CIA. I'm sorry. The Kamla trip brought to you by the OSS. All right, we'll go back to the tire T-shirt. And yes, I'm going to Norway this summer, and I'm sorry, I don't know why I think that's funny. I just think it's hilarious. And I am also spending. I have started putting out feelers to my old interpreter in the Ukraine, and some other people and some cast from the Fortress Association to go to the Ukraine for a couple of weeks, and I want to do interviews with some of the varying fighting sections out there. Is the intention? We do the missing Kamla on the back of a milk carton. All right, for those of you who are not in America, but back in the day, whenever there was a missing person, like a little girl or a child, which is not funny at all, they would the milk companies would put those pictures of the missing children on the back of milk cartons. So everybody who would buy milk, they'd see a picture of missing child, or whoever was missing in that general area. Well, I guess we could send in a picture of the company of Kamla, put him on the back of a milk carton, missing. Been lost there since 1945. I don't know. Can we do a milk carton missing Kamla T-shirt? His family's going to kill me, but it is funny. Western Water. Well, sponsored by the CIA. If it was sponsored by the CIA, we'll definitely never find him. Anyway, that was I don't know why this is funny. I just find it hilarious. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And that's a different logo. I'm not putting that on a T-shirt. No, he couldn't. Well, thank you, man. Let me know where you are compared to everything else. But yeah, I figure I'll post my travel trip, so you can sort of see where I am and when I'm there, in case you're anywhere near. It's always fun when we all meet up, and that's why I'll do the trip. I'll go to the Ukraine, unless, and I'm assuming for anybody who knows anything about the Western Front, Eastern Front, there's going to be a summer offensive, because this is Eastern Europe. There's Ukraine. The Russians are involved. There's always a summer offensive. Right now, it is so muddy there. I keep getting pictures and updates and videos from my friends there all the time. And I don't know, I think maybe I should put them together, do a collage for you guys at some point of what I'm getting. But I'm going, leaving all my stuff in Poland and then crossing in to do some stuff and maybe get up to Kiev. But of course, by the time we get to May, there might be a summer offensive that might make that difficult or impossible. We shall see. I'm also looking at some of the old castles and forts in the Ukraine that I want to see. Um, Obviously, the ones on the Black Sea that I really wanted to see Odessa, but obviously that's not going to happen right now. And I know some of the Ukrainian military, well, some of the civilians have been using some of the old forts in the Ukraine for to hide people, which I thought was really interesting when Jeff brought it to my attention. And I reached out to the Ukrainian lady who talked about it in the forum, um, that some of these old 18th century, 19th century fortresses were being used to shelter civilians and people, which I thought that's just an amazing story. I want to go see that. I want to do episodes, do some interviews, but we shall see. We'll see. That is the plan. Um, Forts and tunnels around my childhood home. No. Um, the coolest bunker around there has now had a restaurant built on top of it. So that's now a wine cellar, and that's out of bounds. So a lot of the bunkers have fallen into the sea on the west coast. Um, I'm thinking. Well, I am going to do the Reagan West bunkers, Cold War bunker in Denmark. There's a couple of other Cold War forts I'm doing in Denmark. Probably some of the older pre-World War One forts as well while I'm there. And there's a couple of big bunkers in Denmark that I would like to see that I haven't seen. Um, but yeah, honestly, a lot of the bunkers I grew up playing in have literally fallen into the sea because of the erosion of the coast on the west. Um, any evidence behind the Lake Toplitz, Odessa, SS Gold, and currency legend? Um, Being just making sure that I remember all the names because I'm like old and senile and it's Sunday. Lake Toplitz was where they found that's where they found the gold, the printing presses for the British pounds, was it not? The SS printing operation Bernard, they moved to the old V2 rocket testing site up in Austria, and then after that they moved up to the lakes and dumped everything in the lake up there. And because it was the water is so cold and low oxygen so deep, it was all fairly well preserved, and they dug it up, including with the SS officer in charge of the operation. Yeah, he was in the submarine when they recovered all those thousands of pound notes and the printing presses. Now, I have a problem with them having dumped gold in all of these deep lakes, because a lot of these lakes, like Toplitz, is insanely deep, insanely cold, and not only that, you also have the added problem that because it's sitting, here's the lake, and then it's sitting with mountains on each side with those trees growing on. So those trees, once in a while, will fall down. They'll come down and they'll literally embed themselves in the lake bed, making it almost impossible to get anything. It's like you go underwater and you see the forest standing down there. There's really some problems retrieving anything from there today. And if you were on the run or you were hiding boxes of gold in 1945, you're not going to hide it in a place it's impossible for you to retrieve it from. I mean, old British banknotes and printing presses, which could be said to be, it might have been done under waters, but it's still probably something the British were really unhappy with. 10% of the pounds in circulation in 1945 were forgeries made by the Germans. So, I mean, the guy, he wasn't a war criminal, but he did that. And I could see, well, this is stuff he would need to get rid of because it will all be worthless. Well, the fake pounds might not have been worth. Well, anyway, you dump a bunch of fake paper pounds in the lake. You're not going to retrieve them. He's on the one. They get rid of their stuff. Printing presses. He dumped it. They dumped it in that lake, expecting never to see it again. If you had boxes and boxes of gold, are you going to pour that into a lake where there's practically no way you are ever going to retrieve it from? I just don't see that. Because the whole point of hiding treasure so it doesn't get caught by anybody when you get caught or found is that at some point in time, you, hoping that you'll survive, get to go back and retrieve it. And like every time I see those stories of SS men with the boxes in the lakes, and also outside, what's there, Ribbentrop's villa up there on a lake. They looked at the lake there that something was dumped in. That's far more shallow. That's far more possible to have retrieved from than Toblitz. And I think that for the I've always maintained that for the gold that went missing during the war and then after, hey Pierre, they would have buried it somewhere where they could have gotten to. And what I'm thinking, there's also a lot of individuals. Here's a retreating army. Maybe they've been in a camp, or they've been wherever they've been stationed in their Gauleiter's office, and they have enriched themselves, which most certainly took place. On the way back at the end of the war, they brought it with them. Now the war's over. They're sitting with a truck or a car or a pocket full of diamonds or whatever. They're not going to surrender with it. And I said, well, in the areas where it was, there was assembly points for German soldiers and units to surrender in. And I would look at the places where Germans willingly or officially surrendered, and look at the place where were they stationed that night before, and then I would look in the forest floor around there, because that's probably where they buried it. And since hundreds of thousands of them did not survive their imprisonment, at least, unfortunately, if not more, that's not a number I have verified yet, but it's certainly not looking up. That means a lot of them, and a lot of the SS especially, did not make it back to those hiding places. And then you have the ones who escaped over the hills, over the mountains, and only they knew where they hid the stuff, and maybe they didn't wasn't able to come back and retrieve it. So I think you'll find smaller stashes here and there, if possible. Pierre, I started 47 minutes ago. We were talking about the trip, and now we're talking about everything else. I had some connection to the archives out in Russia. All links are severed right now. So now there's a sit and wait. Even my Russian friends went out there and said, well, right now it's just not the time. And also for Russian citizens to go ask their archives, this is not the time for them. Nobody in Russia right now wants to share anything or is afraid to do anything because, nobody wants to get in trouble. Yeah, Sevastopol is out of the question this year. At some point in time, I assume the war will end one way or another, and then we'll see. Switzerland, I'm hoping there to catch a couple of the big Cold War bunkers in Switzerland. I would very much like to visit some of the Italian bunkers and forts built against in Germany, facing Germany in 41-42, until Hitler finally told Mussolini to knock it off, which is really interesting. Thank you, David. Hey, Jeff. It's really interesting. I was really interesting when I was in the Italian Alp fort. I found out that the Italians had built forts leading up to World War II and even into World War II facing the German side, and they're really interesting, really well concealed, and so that's something. Yeah, just like the Swiss are really well hidden as well. I just didn't really dive into that story, so I want to go back and see some more of them and get some idea exactly why the Italians were building forts facing their allies, which I thought was an interesting story. So I just want to see who's bugging me. So there, and but yeah, there'll be a couple of things in Denmark, and there'll be quite a bit in Norway, and then we'll see about Sweden. There's also the sites of the nuclear detonations in Poland that I'm going to be taking some samples from. Um, I reached out to the German BIG for to see some more about Goebbels' house, and there's also Hitler's castle. He had a smaller headquarters in a castle that I can't remember the name of it right now. Sorry, don't know why I can't. Uh, there's the bunker in the castle blown up, the castle's bomb. But behind that, there's a huge installation that was used by Reinhard Gehlen and German intelligence in the years after the war. Is now all abandoned, has been for some time. And I would like, there's a lot of tunnels and a lot of things. There was also a huge bunker complex in the nearby village, and it's all been destroyed, at least above ground. And it's actually a surprise because these were bunkers the same as in Wolf's Lair in Poland, huge, huge things, and they're just gone. There's nothing there. There's a parking lot. So, which is strange because it's in the middle of nowhere, doing not really doing anything. So I'm kind of wondering if there's still the tunnels leading from the castle to there. It would help you if I gave you the name of it, which I can't remember. Australia had German prison camps, and there's one out here, well, there's a few out in America as well. And last I went, the barracks at that site, this was in Indiana, around Fort Campbell, there was actually only foundations left, which is a shame because the German prisoners, POWs here, had written like their names and things into the walls that are now no more. So, and of course, written the German authorities to go see places. That didn't work. There's also the German government's bunker. I don't know if you caught that. Rapstein Untergrund. Yes. Tom. Yeah. I went to Rapstein, but I didn't see the fun part that you found. So yeah, that's totally a thing. Since I'm going to be going right there, and there's this little there's a couple that has a little inn, I guess, with a little restaurant and a little hotel, and there's a golden retriever that runs wild, says hi to all the guests. So I'm definitely staying there, and I can have cigars outside. So yes. Where was I going? Oh yes, the German government headquarters bunker, or the German government bunker that they sort of been restoring, opening for tours. I've been emailing with them for a couple of years. Corona, blah, blah, blah. And I kept getting, it's not open, can't just go in, not available, don't know when it's going to be. And I heard from one of you guys in the chat that, oh yeah, last week he just took a bunch of people in there, got the full tour in the back, which really pissed me off because either I'm talking to a moron or they're just lying to me. So I wrote him back, said, well, I heard that you just have tours that are going through this place now. I guess that means for me tour since my friend is so and so on. Not a word. So I'll try somebody else. But I don't know what it is about German. They wonder why people keep sneaking in and breaking into places when they absolutely will not allow even people with a press pass to go through the locations they own and control. And I swear sometimes I keep wondering if I have to remind them who won the war anyway. I mean, the CIA probably won't help me. Anyway, I have to go back to it. I have to go back everywhere. Idaho. Did we have them all the way up in Idaho? I know we had a bunch in Florida that might still be there. Oh yeah, who would totally do illegal things in such a place? Who would sneak in unattended? Who would do such a thing? Well, they seem to be doing quite well as it is, the CIA. And I kind of want to do some French Alpine forts or Alpine Maginot Line forts because they're just really cool and high up and far to fall, I guess. Um, there's also a couple of munition factories and things more. There's more things in Germany that I would like to see. Well, don't say that on YouTube. They hate me already. Uh, God, YouTube is infuriating. Once again, I'm battling with the evil forces of YouTube who hates everything. And Amazon have rejected the V3 gun episode without explanation. It's really hard to navigate telling history since you have no idea who will take offense at, and then that's the problem with the world we live in today. Everything becomes digital and technical, and at an arm's distance, you cannot actually just call someone and say, "Help me with this." Germany percent yourself a day, and yeah, you know what? You're right, but honestly, in the moment they look up my name in Germany, they'll find all my videos and they'll find out what I do, and that will be the basis of pretty much whatever decision they're going to make. Sometimes it works to have a network or something behind. Sometimes there have been places where I have had like Anita write instead and set it all up because I had a hunch that, well, if they look me up, they're probably going to say no because I ask questions and I don't tell the narrative. I try to paddle down the middle. I don't take sides. I'm not. I always thought as a historian, you can't take sides. You shouldn't display opinion. You paddle down the middle and talk about what happened, what you know, and that's apparently not good enough. But and apparently, especially in Germany, it's you've heard the terminology of propaganda by museum, where you see museums the world over set up specifically to present one side of one story, which is I think I'm coming of a museum where you have to show, you have to show every side of the story. But then again, you look at who's funding the museum, what is their agenda, what do they want, and a lot of times museums have been are being funded or granted donations by some organization that have a one-sided view of they want to present their side of history, and I guess it is what it is. Who gets to pay to play, right? But fortunately, I don't think we have to do that. We can talk history and just honestly try to paddle down and find out what happened and present events in a neutral light. And we'll see how much trouble I get into if I start suggesting that when we try the Nuremberg trials and with all available information. Let's hope I don't win the lotto, because then I'm actually going to do it. Yes, Musk should buy YouTube, but they just got a new CEO, and I think. Well, the problem is it's just because I mean, you saw it when Trump was president. Just because the head of an organization changes doesn't mean that all the Muppets in the bottom does. They can keep doing what they do, and it was on my road. They defunded it, demonetized it, citing reuse of material. And then I did a video explaining why it wasn't and why it was original. And then they came back and said, "Well, but you're not you in your explanation didn't explain why you didn't explain the purpose with your channel." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the complaint was reuse of material, not anything else. So no, of course I didn't do that." Then I get a third. Then I complained about that, and then I get another email back and said, "Well, you're not following YouTube guidelines." And yes, I am. All the videos on my road was made for YouTube, so it's like it's just three different explanations, which is all BS. And I wrote that to him. I said, "This is not right. Whatever you're citing, I want them to tell me exactly what it is you said the problem is. You said what video, what time code, what is the problem?" So I'm waiting for that, but I'm not positive. But anyway, I mean, it's unfortunately the world we live in now. is that you can't pick up the phone. Same thing with a lot of times with you work in big corporations. You can't pick up the phone and say, listen, Bob, I have a problem. Can we just help me figure this out? You get to write blind emails to, sometimes you wonder if it's a robot in customer service. You don't get the 4 months I've been fighting with Amazon Prime. I will write them a direct question and they respond to something completely different. Something that has nothing, that is not relevant to what I even asked, which is making the technical upload of episodes to Amazon Prime TV really hard because you get caught up in a machine problem that, like subtitle, this is actually nothing to do with the history we're here to talk about. But anyway, I'm just complaining about it because, well, still you're listening. Sorry. It's just you'll upload and keep complaining that the subtitles are in the wrong format. Well, I reformatted them 3 months ago and re-uploaded it, but I can't submit it because it won't let me. And then I keep writing them and go, well, sorry, I can't submit because of the technical issue. Yeah, but the files are wrong. Some of the files have been re-uploaded, and it just goes on and on and on. 4 months. I'm not a big Amazon fan, certainly not since I saw their latest commercial here in America. Oh, I looked at that commercial and go like, I am boycotting that company. And again, buy on Amazon Prime. It's a step towards. I always have to try to diversify the platform where I put out videos because there's always a chance that somebody in YouTube's going to wake up tomorrow and kick me off because he or she or it's having a bad day. And we saw that happen last year. And that's why I set up the Patreon and the memberships, because I always have to keep that in mind, that I am not in control and we don't live in a free speech society anymore. And that's just a fact. So, no, I don't do this with a lawyer, because I thought about doing a lawyer against Facebook because of the whole misrepresentation argument I had with those dudes. But it's like, it shouldn't be necessary. And they can always cite some interpretation of a vague rule that say, well, you broke this vague rule in our view. Then it becomes an interpretation aspect. What are you going to do? Spend $10,000, $15,000 on a lawyer fighting something? I actually asked for the last year when I was dealing with that. I was asking for YouTube's legal department. They won't even give out the name of a lawyer. So you have to. It's a battle all the way uphill, and I think that's why they're doing it in the world we live in now. Is they're deliberately making it as hard as possible for people to do anything, including complaining. I mean, we all know that practically our vote doesn't matter anywhere and anything. It's all about control. And if you make it incredibly hard for people to complain or do anything, eventually they're just going to bend the knee and I can't do anything about it and give up. And that's what most people do. They just give up because there's just very little recourse many times. Just like the airlines. I've been shooting off an enormous amount of emails to everybody in Lufthansa about the treatment I got with them last time, which was really, really not right. And I was complaining and bitching and moaning to all parts of their customer service, and all you get back is an email. Oh, thank you for your feedback. We'll get back to you. And nothing. No phone number, no contact, no personal. You can't find a person. And that's why they do it, because they just. And next time you fly, say, well, I don't want to fly Lufthansa. Then I buy a ticket on United, and when I show up in the airport, say, well, this flight is owned by United, but it's carried by Lufthansa. And it's like it's this big system that it becomes harder and harder to fight against. And it's Freeman Pro Freedom Singer. What's it? I don't know. That sounds interesting, but somebody asked me what woman I am incredibly impressed by in this historical day and age. if anybody actually wants to hear and has something to do with Holland. I'm not seeing anybody else, but I can tell you anyway. Given the farmers' protests out in Holland, which is one thing that everybody, especially anybody here in Holland, should listening to this. Don't care if you're a farmer or not. You get your ass off the sofa and go down there and support these people, because once a dictatorial government it manages to start taking away your food, shutting down your farmers, you are going to run out of food. And then you can drive up to McDonald's and see if you can have a grasshopper burger after waiting in line, because the gas prices is now so high, you have to walk to the drive-through. But what they did in Holland is just what they're doing to forcibly, they made up a nitrogen crisis, which there's none of. There's completely faulty plan. They want to kick out all these farmers, shut them down within the end of the year, so they can build their super European dictatorial digital city and whatever other EU reasons they have. But Eva Veladingebroek, that woman I am impressed with. She has been speaking the cause for freedom of speech and women as causes, and I am impressed with that young lady. I'm assuming she's younger than me, and I'm impressed with some of the people that are stepping up and fighting back, and I am so disgusted that the mainstream media is. I mean, I get it; they're all owned by the same agencies, and they're watching out for their paycheck, but that no one is ready to abandon the possibility that they might get fired. They already have money in retirement. Take a chance for freedom and actually step up. It's just so there's some people that are really impressing me, and Eva Veladingebroek is definitely one of them. I don't think we have any history in common, but to hear her fight for what's right is really impressive. And anyway, and it's interesting because, like I said in the gold episode, that's Sven. That's the one. In the late 43, 44, there was a talk in Germany about converting all chemical production to munitions production, which would then mean not making chemical fertilizer for the farmers. And believe it or not, Germany, they may have an impressive production capability, but their farming procedures were really outdated and not at all capable of handling the needs for the food. And that you would think that Germany, having developed synthetic fertilizer, would have done everything they could. And Himmler was aware of this, and he was a farmer. And I mean, he was a farmer in the sense that he had all the degrees in agriculture. And so Speer put out a feeler, did a survey. What would happen if to German agriculture in general, if they no longer received synthetic fertilizer? And it was quite clear from that it would cause starvation within a few years, which it did. You look at Germany in 40, 46, 47, lack of food, starvation, of course, also in Holland. Great starvation in Holland because of lack of food. And right now, Holland is most certainly self-sufficient in food. But they're not learning any. Like, they haven't learned anything, these people. I mean, we're also like all. If you're a politician anywhere in the West these days, you're probably an idiot who haven't learned anything from history. And if you haven't learned anything from history, you are by default an idiot. So I'm not just calling you blanketly an idiot. But if you don't look at events that happened around you in your country, like what we keep here talking about, what happened during the Second World War, and how that has just continued to repurpose itself. And they say the same thing about how did we get to the point where we are in Ukraine today. And no one in the mainstream media actually wants to dive into that deeper. You just saw how the American government some months ago, some 30 dudes that came up and said, we need to negotiate a settlement. They were just shot down to the point where they all even disavowed their own petition. And they weren't asking for anything other than we need to open up a negotiated settlement possibility. And they were just canceled. And it's something is wrong when both parties in this country are on the same side of anything, because that just doesn't happen. And those are government by models, not by reality. All European governments, Germany too, they are, none of them are governed by reality. Whatever woke weirdness they live in, and it will cost, and people will die. And then you can sit and say later on, well, I guess we shouldn't have done that. They don't even do that. They know what they're doing is going to cost, but I just don't think they care, which is the really scary part. We talk about the inhuman part. Former service systems and landing. Yeah, I mean, if you make it, also, if they force these farmers in Holland to sell because they make it impossible for them to farm, if you impose so many rules that they can't farm and create food for the Dutch people, well, then they're eventually going to sell because they can't farm anymore. Is it then voluntary? Then the government comes, well, they sold all these of their farms voluntarily. They only did it after the government made it impossible for them to farm. And I never thought Holland would be that country. I mean, come on, we're talking about Holland, Amsterdam, red light district, drugs everywhere, liberal, happy, go free, and now it's turning into this dictatorial empire. So it's amazing how these things happen. Norsk Hydro. Maybe I should swing by there. I don't know where that is compared to it's probably not anywhere near. Probably. Actually, I should probably reach out to Norsk Hydro, because that will be interesting. Since I know they started after the sabotage, after they've been bombed and the sabotage. I think that basement where the heavy water was made, there was a sub basement that was then just covered up and ignored. They started cleaning that out, from what I heard some years ago, maybe a year ago. That'll be interesting to see if they actually have done more excavation on that. Well, all of Europe have corrupt government. They just package is nicer than the corrupt government we have here in America. And yes, the World Economic Forum is absolutely at the center of what is wrong. That's hardly news. And it's funny because I don't think they have a majority of support amongst anybody, because I don't think I've ever met anybody anywhere. And I live in LA. It's a pretty damn liberal neighborhood. I've never met anybody who's in favor of anything that's going on. So I don't know where they were. In Denmark, they're going to false flag viruses to terminate all poultry, meat, and dairy production. Yeah, that's yeah, like we just ran out of the chickens here. I think they're going to try to keep the chickens alive and get rid of the cows. And it's just like I can always tell. My only advice to everyone is to collect some gold, some hardware, have cash at home, and stock up on bullets, food, and toilet paper. It really is hardware. This is the time where credit card debt is, and borrowed assets, or living on something that's not yours, or investments somewhere by bankers that you can't trust, is just not the time. This is time to have hard assets that you can put your hands on for what is coming, for whatever that's going to be, and because that'll be it'll be a real thing. I'm working on a documentary about propaganda and false flags, and how to identify it and how to live with it. Something you can show your teenage kids, that they can watch and just with some tools on how to not go insane, because everything in everywhere, in all media, is all propaganda. So how do you deal with it? And I thought it's time. I really wanted to do that episode. I read it in, but I need to put the visuals to it, and then I need to sort of re-edit it because I'm not happy with it. I don't know. I felt like it's a little repetitive. But when it comes out, hopefully there'll be something that we can learn. People can take some lessons. Go like, oh yeah, whenever I see this, I need to think ABC, and oh yeah, maybe it's not that bad. Prion indicates disease plus. But anyway, there. Bonjour, Jacques. Oh God, that reminds me. I promised to go see a friend in Paris. If any Frenchmen here, are you still rioting in Paris? Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you are today. Are you still rioting in Paris in a month? Because Paris traffic is horrible to begin with. So if you add a bunch of protesters, I'm not sure that's going to be any better. But we'll see when we get to May. I always made it a point of skirting around Paris. Way around. But there is the Fortress Association that I am now a member of, as opening up the Hitler's bunker out in his outside Paris headquarters. So finally, they found the guy with the lock, and I won't have to sneak in there in the middle of the night. And I wouldn't do that anyway. I know the guy, so it'll be nice. But I'm hopeless. That is actually, as far as I know, the only one of Hitler's actual bunkers that is still intact, short of the very small one that I also have a video of. But I think there's quite a few videos. There's actually a few of Hitler's headquarters in France. I filmed quite a few of them. I just haven't gotten to the episode yet. I got to remember. Actually, there's an episode on. Huh. I do have an episode from Brunhilde that I haven't edited yet. Why haven't I done that? Oh, well, because we're going to go back and take a look at it. But I guess I could knock that out. You probably haven't seen. None of you have probably seen Hitler's headquarters, where he put the headquarters in. He built the headquarters on a couple of bunkers on top of an old Maginot Line fort. The French did use it for years after as a NATO headquarters, and nuclear proofed it. But I was in there, and you probably haven't seen that. I guess I could knock that out. What's coming up next week is Roger and I is back in Verdun as a really cool World War I fort, and I'm just thinking about that. I could do that episode for you. That's actually kind of interesting. But I wanted to go back and film some more, because all of a sudden I came down, had no idea what to expect, and I really had no idea what to expect. It was kind of a little bit neck breaking to get in, and and I had Anita with me that time, said, well, give me half an hour, and I'll be back if I'm not back in half an hour, I don't know, throw in some food in a rope or something. And when I came down to the bottom of go through all this modern nuclear-proof bunker, you go into it, you get down to the traditional staircase, go 30 meters down, and then all of a sudden you have this huge Maginot Line fort with kilometers and kilometers of hallways. And it was really interesting, because there's nobody in this forest around us. And found one way in, because it was fairly well secured, still owned by the French military. And I got in there, I almost certainly was alone. And I started looking at all this huge place, and I was looking at these hallways, and the roof is falling down, and the new stuff is falling down, not the old stuff. And then on the cement by the rails, I saw wet footsteps leading away. I'm like, I am not alone in here. Yay. But I figured I would need hours and hours to go through this place, because Again, it was one of the big National Line forts, and I have. There's again spider web of hallways and tunnels and train tracks leading to some of the outside forts. So I filmed that section, and I could show you and the Hitler's bunker above ground, just identical to what you see in Poland, was really interesting. And but I didn't follow up all the hallways, and I want to do that when I get back because it was really kind of cool. And I'm going to remember the very enthusiastic German gentleman that was with me at the V3 site. He and I are going to go do that. We also have another one of Kamla's tunnels that we filmed that I haven't showed you yet. I thought gold was at $16 something. Well, it was $16 something last time I purchased it. I was like, if you have $20 or $100 or just a little bit left over, buy something that'll last. Anyway, but yeah, no, actually that was my. It's just funny when you go down to a place where you know you're utterly alone, and then you see wet footsteps, which is kind of fun. I figure I'll just wait and see if he comes back, but and sometimes you run into people in the strangest places, which is kind of cool. It's fun to meet explorers or run into people making out on top of old forts. I was there only in France, but nah. Yeah, buy gold and buy silver. Just you just always set a little bit aside. Yeah, like those kids. Yeah, that I also that I did. Oh, those kids. Oh, those kids. I was talking about the kids. Well, you didn't see them because the one on top of the Metz fort, because I didn't film them because I was being nice because they were making out, and I figured that's not really any of our business. I again, yeah, I got to go back to that place in Holland because there's apparently a big bunker that I missed. Back to the old battlefields, just like the ones we talked about outside of Berlin. Problem with old battlefields around urban areas is that there's very little left. It's fun with a metal detector because you never find stuff underground, but there's the tanks, the trucks, all the big stuff have been pulled away. I mean, of course, have been recovered a long time ago and recast and all that. And then those temporary fighting positions, for the most part, that is now again interesting with the metal detector. But I was kind of there's a couple of battlefields out in the east where I can't go right now. I think that most of them are in Russia, where they haven't recovered some of the tanks that are still sitting there, and I thought that would be interesting to come see. But again, Tom, you haven't taken me to the catacombs? Come on, aren't we supposed to do romantic holidays underground? And I also gotta get the contact for that guy with the cars sitting in that old factory underground. Got to see if I can reach him. By the way, metal detecting in some parts of Europe is. Poland, it's forbidden. Some of the battlefields is forbidden, and clearly we all adhere constantly to the rules and regulations. So that just weighs deeply on my mind sometimes. But so no, Peter, I haven't gone, but like I said, the battlefields in the east are more fun. But now that was supposed to start that last year. Well, I don't know. So anyway, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to do more live on sites when I'm out there running through places out there. I'll because of the time difference for those in the States, it would have to be 4 in the afternoon, which is noonish, morningish here. It's that's a little bit of the time difference becomes a thing for doing live episodes from sites. But from some of the forts and things, I think I'm going to start doing while I'm out there, especially if I'm going to be traveling for a couple of months. I want to start doing some live walkthroughs of a location, and also have you guys ask questions, maybe with someone on the phone to take questions as I go through, so it can actually be interactive for the above ground locations. Obviously, when it starts getting into a mountain or into a tunnel, then I'll lose all reception. But I thought it would be kind of fun to do more of those. So yeah, exactly. For Europe, it can be any time because you're awake. Um, so I actually, though I haven't looked at my demographics lately to see what the ratio is. I think I still have more viewers in the U.S. Than in all the countries combined, and the Philippines. I don't know why I have a lot of views in the Philippines. I think that might be the movies more so than the history. Um, yeah, and that's what there's some really cool forts with cannons sitting out in Sweden, and I would love to see if there's any of the torpedo bunkers, the installations where you had the torpedo tubes built into the rock side to guard against ships coming into the fjords. I know there were some in Norway. I don't know if any of it's still in place. Some of them were probably, as far as I know, still in use or at least in position way into the Cold War. That would be interesting. So there's a lot of cool things in in Norway that I would like to do. So, and this got to be the year. Oh yeah, I want to go to the Philippines. Like my buddy from Game of Thrones lived in the Philippines, and I've been promising to visit forever, but because of the flu and all that crap, that just haven't been possible. And I want to go dive on some of the shipwrecks. um, yes, you know that Russian channel where they metal detect and dig up old bunkers and dead dudes and stuff. Yeah, the Russian that they do. There's some from the Baltics as well, and they go around Stalingrad. That is really cool. It is frustrating as hell that they haven't enabled their subtitling, and if it does, it's really sporadic. Um, but them I really wanted to hook up with and go to Stalingrad again. Got to wait until what's going on is going on. Uh, we should do a German translated clone channel of Lost Battlefields. I mean, all the videos, they should at least have German subtitling enabled. So in Germany, they should be able to subtitle. I mean, you're right. Um, uh, I was working on for my road, starting to do because I'm here in America, and there's a lot in the car, especially in the car world, of Mexicans and Hispanics planning on doing some stuff with a co-host, a Latino co-host, to do a Spanish version and English version. Um, Not to mention that she's pretty, and that would be just that's fun and games. I could see it would be interesting to do a German version as well of Lost Battlefield. So it's not a bad idea. Um, Absolutely. Yes, I am absolutely going to the Buna plant in Auschwitz because if I don't go there and start filming that, Joseph will kill me. I've been wanting to go there for a long time, and he has a whole lot of questions. So we are going to see. Yes, the ship of Sherman's off Scotland. What's the depth, James? Do you know how deep that thing is? Yeah, and yes, Tom, I know the automatic translation. The same thing the other way around. Same thing with those Russians. When you do when you look at those Russian, I mean, you don't really need to understand what they're saying when they're digging up battlefields and metals and dead bodies and stuff. I mean, you get it from the visuals, but it's interesting if they talk about the place. But the translation is so god awful. So yeah, I know. Battle of the Bulge, yes. Um, I've done for the East Wall, for the West Wall episode that you haven't seen yet because I haven't gotten to it yet. I go through the West Wall bunkers and some of those battlefields in Hurtgen Forest. And yes, Reagan East. I'm coming up there in a couple of in a month and a half. Because my buddy, he is a forester and lives nearby, and we've been talking about going there for a while. So yeah, lad oss komme oss til Denmark og spise noe okay. There's a couple of more forts and things in Denmark I want to do. Reagan East, Reagan West, what the hell? I know the one you mean. I really wanted to go film it and see it while they were restoring it before they turned it into an official museum, because it's always more fun to see stuff before it gets renovated. I don't know what they did with it, but they did not want to play. Fine. So there. Anyway, yes, I'm dieting nicely, getting myself in shape for my trip, so I can eat my way through Europe and get nice and fat again. I have also talked to, like I said, a Polish urban explorer, a lady out there who's actually traveled all over the world, and about coming with and doing some castles and some interesting stuff out in Poland. So maybe we can. Don't know if there's a big YouTube market for for. Sorry, there's a thing about Danish layer cakes that you guys will never understand until you had one or two or three. We had the Othello layer cake, which is a traditional Danish layer cake in Denmark, wrapped in marzipan, and it is awesome. And when I was training to get bigger and competing, we would be two dudes, and we would, buy a decent sized layer cake, and we would just cut it in half and sit on the gym parking lot, eating a half each, and then go work out, and then go to McDonald's and had a Big Mac eating competition. It was a good old day. It was good times. Danish food is really good. Although the Danish baker, again, the globalist war on small mom and pop shops, the local bakeries are fewer and fewer, which is really, really sad. I don't know if you remember, I did that episode from the Danish bakery some years ago with my GoPro. It doesn't exist anymore, which is really, really sad. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm probably going to do some episodes with a nice Polish lady and talk about some of her sites. And I was really impressed with her, Girl on a Trail. That she doesn't do sort of what I do, but she loves those old abandoned places. When I looked at her website, she's been everywhere, Africa and Middle East and all over the world. So I was like, that would be interesting. Let's go get some local opinion. And I'm meeting with several people from the Forts Association. There's a lot of forts around several Polish cities. There weren't Polish forts. That must have been built. Again, I need to look up on the history, but I know you have the same as you have in Metz and Verdun and Liège. You have a city that is surrounded by fortresses, and that's going to be fun. Plus, there's a bunker line running down through Poland, a temporary bunker line, not the east wall, but further east that the Germans had built. Is there any info that Germans gave nuclear info on tube alloys? God damn it, Melissa, it's Sunday. They were working with tube alloys, I believe. You know what? Let me get back to you on that one. I remember they were working on specific alloys for war production and also in relation to the nuclear program. But I offhand, I actually can't give you a proper answer on that one until I just have a chance to brush up and look up on that or call Joseph, who's still writing on his book. But yeah, I mean, that's the saddest thing that have come out of this whole flu shit is the mom and pop shops are disappearing in America and Europe as well. You see bakeries even in Germany. That much usually all the smaller bakeries are just disappearing, and it's just heartbreaking. Um, okay, hang on. Are we talking about metal alloys, or are we talking about the code word for the program tube alloy? Uh, it is also a real thing, other than the it is. Are we talking about the same thing? Um, what did you get for $500 on eBay? Oh, there. Both Kampfliege funktioniert. Sorry, I'm just reading comments. Seen the Sean Ryan show? Sean Ryan show? No, I haven't. I If I turn on the TV, it's pretty much only running on Family Guy and Simpsons while I'm editing. I hardly ever. I can't even remember last time I watched the movie. Um, that's right. Okay, hang on, Melissa. Now that I'm actually now, I just want to make sure that we are. Okay, I'm talking about. I was thinking metallurgy. Metallurgy. That's a word I'm not going to do on a Sunday. Um, most yes, no. All right, fine. So to answer that question, most of the German scientists did not want to work for England, and the OSS did scoop up a whole lot of information, and some was shared with the British. British intelligence did have people on the ground scout looking for this, just like the Americans did, but there was still a very tacit agreement to not that they weren't really agreeing. Like Dulles and British intelligence did not really see eye to eye, and that continued. And you'll see that a lot of the British nuclear bomb assets were brought to America for the Manhattan Project for safety, for one, and also to consolidate of efforts. But after the war, a lot of that technology and know-how did not come back to England. And the Germans that had expertise there either stayed in England, some were snapped up by the Germans or went to the Russians. Sorry, and most went to America. There's very like a British paperclip program. There was something to a degree talked about, but never really implemented. And the British have fairly good ideas on their own. So, but the German know-how that could have gone to the British nuclear bomb project would probably, if it was during the war or in the year after, had been siphoned on, moved on to America, because that's where the British effort was. It was decided that there was going to be a united effort in America to build a bomb there, and there was always some bitterness after the war that Britain never really fully benefited from that know-how because the Americans really didn't share afterwards. So the information about whatever the Germans were doing that would have gone to British scientists would have come by whatever captured document or equipment they would have found, not by direct collaboration, unless some of the captured Germans had volunteered some. But it wasn't as easy a straightforward a peace between the British and the Americans after the war as you would have thought. Brian, I'm not entirely sure Goebbels worked with the BBC. He didn't speak English, which was kind of a problem. Sunday next week, I could if I find anything to say. But yeah, no, I'm gonna. Yes, I did watch Das Boot. Great show, and great techno music afterwards. Anyway, that never mind. Oh, gee, something happened to the German the German gas supply. Something went wrong in Germany there. Well, I'm sure the Americans didn't have anything to do with it. And this is one of the things that I just want to point out, that I don't think there's the administration here that apparently have blown up the pipeline, that we all knew that the American was done by American Special Forces or something, or if it was Naval Special Forces. Just because the American government wants to do something is not something you can blame all Americans on, because very few people really agree with what they're doing. Just saying, just saying. Yeah, the day I have nothing to say. Um, well, you never know, Raymond. You never know. There's a lot of crisscrossing. But anyway, I will try to shut up because I need to go back and start editing on a whole bunch of stuff while I'm here at work, of course. The Canadians did it. Yes, Trudeau, he did it. Well, I thought Trudeau was a communist, so why would he blow up Russia's pipeline? Oh, sorry, did I say that? Well, the Danes apparently was aware of it. If the report that came out is to believe, then both the Norwegians and the Danes had been made aware that the American naval special forces were doing this. I would say the Germans probably should be a little bit bitter about that, and the Russians probably should be a little bit bitter about this as well. As long as we know the Nazis didn't do it, because they didn't find any floating tires down there. Anyway. I believe it. Now, Michael, you're in Denmark as well, and it's interesting when they talk about, oh, yeah, like I ever have nothing to talk about. Remember the whole jet that tagged that American drone a couple of days ago, and in Denmark, I keep remembering Russian ships for decades have always sort of run chicken with Danish warships. They've always, laid out smoke, and they always done, the little bullying harassment thing. The Cold War in the waters, and it's always been going on, and it never really stopped, and it was still going on a couple of years ago when I was out there talking to one of my friends in the Danish Navy. There's always been that little testing, regardless of what the political climate was. And this is why everybody's up in arms, because a German Russian pilot brought down an American drone in a location where the Russians have said is a no-fly zone. Even if it's international waters, we said, we don't respect your no-fly zones. Yeah, but if the Russian Air Force and Navy and military says, we don't want you flying here for whatever reason, if you do, you're probably going to get tagged. And if the Americans say, this is no-fly zone because we're doing operations here, guess what? We're probably going to do the same thing. So I'm sorry, I'm not raising an eyebrow over that one. And I'm sure the Russian Navy is still doing the same thing out there. Yes, Pierre, I can't hold my breath long enough to go down that deep. I mean, the series Das Boot, it was a pretty good series. If I remember, I mean, granted, it was 15 years ago since I saw it. I also didn't see that German movie that apparently won a bunch of Oscars, war movie. Guess I should. So World War II can still win Oscars. I have some idea what it might have been about. But anyway, I didn't watch the Oscars either because, hey, I get to edit stuff for you guys, and that's more fun. So anyway, now I will try to shut up because it's time for lunch and editing. Yes, it is. Yeah, I could probably come on Sunday and chit chat if anybody has something, and I will put out a thing for the trip that we initially wanted to talk about briefly. Not All Quiet on the Western Front. I think this one is called A Quiet Place. And I'm pulling that out my rear end because my German buddy at the gym told me that I think that's what he said. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I can imagine. And it'll annoy me because all my Jewish producer friends have continuously told me that, no, we can't do a Holocaust movie. We can't do a Holocaust movie. Nobody wants to see it. And then every 5-6 years, somebody makes a Holocaust movie and then wins a bunch of awards. I'm like, can we just do mine? Anyway, and that's another movie, Quiet on the Western Front. I have to see that as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm catching up on movies. That's just like really way down on my list. Um, I don't really do anything other than this, including forgetting my own research. So anyway, okay, that sounds interesting, actually. To be honest. Well, one day we'll do. I mean, one day we'll do another movie. The next movie I'm doing. Well, there's only going to be a handful of actors in it, and you'll see there's something to it. And then after that, we've got to do an action, then a biker movie, and then we've got to do some more war movies. War movies are fun. I kind of want to do. Man, we'll see. Somebody got to fund them too, and it's probably not going to be on YouTube revenue, but we shall see. Anyway, you guys all take care, and well, you know where to find me. And I will, yes, I wrote Steve Greer because I know he has some ins with research and archives, and he has not responded, no, which is fine. I'm sure he gets a lot of messages. There's a lot of people I write that you don't hear back from. You don't know if they get the messages, and some the assistants don't break through, and it takes a little time, and you write 10 times, and then you get an answer. Uh, but yeah, Greer is also on my list of what do you know about this kind of thing. So anyway, I will put up a thing on the trip, and I will go back to doing whatever it is I do. And if any of you have billions of photos of Hermann Goering, his family, and his first wife, anything before 1932, any pictures or of his houses or where they lived or anything, please send them to me because they are a bitch to find, to be quite honest. There's not that many of them around here, and I found searches around the world are different. So there. Anyway, I will. You just joined. Well, you got to go, editor. You got to go back to the beginning where we talked about the trip, and then I'll be posting a preliminary suggested list and plan and schedule, which is what is coming next. All right, you guys. I will see you all. Yes, there will be room for everybody. I'll be I'll be handing out free extra parts. You guys have a good Sunday.